Welcome back to Franchise Player, and today we're checking out 5 Xbox One games that I'm still playing in 2024. So I've had my Xbox One for a little over a year now, give or take around that time. I didn't have one of these right when it came out, so the Xbox One still feels pretty new to me. My PS5 and my Switch are like my go-to consoles, but I love having the Xbox One in my office along with some older systems, just so I have something a touch more modern, and it's been really fun digging into the Xbox library. I know the Xbox One didn't have a ton of exclusives, but there's definitely some good ones, and I've been having a good time so far. But yeah, let's get right into these 5 games that I've been playing on my Xbox One. So first up on the list, we have a series that I had actually never jumped into. I never played any back on the original Xbox, never played any of this series on the Xbox 360, and I was like, you know what, man, now's the time. It was a pretty cheap game, and that is Forza Motorsport 5. So this is a really cool copy because it was the day one edition. I thought it was really dope how Xbox actually had this special cover on some of the day one games during the launch period. I know Sunset Overdrive has one of these. Dead Rising 3, I think, has one of these day one editions on it as well. And I just think it was a nice touch. But yeah, Forza Motorsport 5, man. I had never played a Forza game before. I've always been more of a Gran Turismo guy when it comes to the sim racing world, and I was like, you know what, I have the Xbox One hooked up in here, let me pick up Forza Motorsport 5 and see what it's all about. I know the Horizon series of Forza is supposed to be more arcadey, but at this point I like more of the sim style racing. And Forza Motorsport 5, I mean, this game still looks really good, especially for when it came out. This is a 2013 game. I think the car models in this game still look incredible. Most of the tracks that I've played on so far look really nice too, and then the customization options on cars are pretty great too, from exhausts, intakes, manifolds, lowering a car, throwing different wheels on, painting it a different color, adding different spoilers, side skirts, body kits, all that. I feel like the customization is pretty solid. But I will say, I think I was definitely sleeping on the Forza series because I'm having a really good time so far. For my starter car in Forza, I actually picked up a pretty fun car. It's a Hyundai Genesis Coupe. That's a nice, 2-door coupe, nice little Korean car. Pretty good power to it. I haven't done a ton of mods to it yet in the game, but I played through a bunch of like the beginner races and beginner, I guess you could say, tournaments. And I ended up buying a GTR. So right now my car in Forza Motorsport 5 is a 2012 Nissan GTR. Looks incredible, sounds incredible, super fun to drive, and I've just been having a ton of fun playing this game, man. I know everyone says online that the car selection in this was not as good compared to other Forza games, and they were basically trying to push this out and kind of hustle it for the launch of Xbox One. I haven't really had an issue personally with the amount of the cars in the game yet, but I'm not super far into it, so that might be something that I complain about later on. But so far, I think a pretty good car selection. It does suck that a handful of cars, at least from what I've seen so far, are locked behind DLC, which is never fun. It's like, hey, if I'm getting a racing game, it would be pretty cool if I could, even if the cars are expensive, if you could save up and eventually get them instead of having to buy them through DLC or some kind of add-on. One thing to note is I don't think this game is available on the Xbox Store anymore due to like licensing issues. So I think your only way to get this might actually be physical. So next up is a game that I actually don't own physical. I might pick it up later on eventually just to play the campaign, but that is Halo Infinite. At this point in my life, I'm not a big first-person shooter fan. I don't play a ton of them. Back in the day when I was in like middle school, early parts of high school, I would play, a decent amount of FPSs. That's when I feel like COD and, Battlefield were kind of at their peaks. But yeah, so it was kind of interesting to hop on Halo. I saw the online portion of Halo Infinite was free to play. So I was like, you know what, man? Let's check it out. Let's download it. I was kind of itching to play some Halo multiplayer because it had been years since I'd played Halo online. And even though this is a base Xbox One that I'm playing on, it's the old school VCR model launch edition. It's not the X, it's not the Slim, it's not like I'm running Halo Infinite on a Series X or anything like that. The game definitely does not run or look as good as it could on a newer or more powerful system, which I'm not a person to really complain about frame rate or performance or graphics or anything like that. It's been pretty nostalgic, going on and playing some Halo online because, during Halo 3's peak and the 360 era, like who wasn't playing Halo? So it's pretty cool to go online and, play some Halo. The BR is still really fun to use. I like the weapons, and the game modes that they have on there are pretty fun. But yeah, if you're a person who wants to play some online and not drop any money, Halo Infinite, free to play. Later on, maybe I'll pick up the physical copy so I can play the campaign, but it would have to be pretty cheap for me to pick it up. So next up, we have a Capcom game, and pretty much anything Capcom puts out in my book is going to be at least decent, and that is Mega Man 11. So I saw this in GameStop a few weeks back, and I was like, you know what, man, Mega Man 11 for the Xbox, I'm down to pick it up. I think it was like 12 or 13 bucks, so not terribly expensive or anything like that. And I know you can get this on PS4 and Switch, but I feel like this game is a little less common on Xbox for some reason. I don't know if that's just with less people picking up physical copies of games on Xbox or what, but I'm having a good time with this so far, man. It really reminds me of Mega Man 8, basically, from the PS1 and Sega Saturn days, but with like a fresh coat of paint. There is I guess you could say, gimmick or power-up / ability you can use in this, where you can pretty much slow down time or speed up time to get through certain platforming parts of a level or get around certain enemies. And I don't mind it personally. Usually I'm not a big fan of games that have some kind of ability gimmick or power gimmick, but it's Mega Man, so you can't really go wrong with it. Not exactly a new game, but it's pretty cheap and I'm having some fun with it. One thing I'll say about, with pretty much any Mega Man game is the soundtrack is pretty much always going to be amazing. And I do like the soundtrack on Mega Man 11. I don't think it's as good as Mega Man 8. Mega Man 8 is a classic soundtrack. Like, no joke, I'll throw that on, playing on YouTube in the background while I'm doing something else and just kind of vibe out to some Mega Man music. But yeah, Mega Man 11. I'm having fun with it so far. I don't think I'm probably even halfway through the game yet because I haven't played a ton of this yet. But even if you don't have an Xbox One, pick this up on PS4, pick it up on Switch. Definitely think it's worthwhile if you're a fan of action platformers or if you played some old school Mega Man games back in the day. Hopefully they do some other Mega Mans in the future like this that are just kind of back to the Mega Man roots. All right, so next up I have a sports game, and if you're watching this channel, you're probably not really into sports games if I had to guess, but it's actually NBA 2K20, and I typically buy 2K pretty much every year just to play online with some friends. And this was the year that I actually didn't pick up 2K. This was at GameStop. It was like $1.99 for Xbox One when I was picking up some other games. And I was like, you know what, man, $1.99. It was a 2K I didn't play. Sure, it's a little dated, but I don't mind having older sports games that are dated sometimes, because it's fun to go back to those old rosters where maybe some old players are still playing that you grew up with. It's cool that some old school players are still in this game that I grew up with, like Carmelo, guys like that, that I really liked watching, D-Rose, players like that. And it's fun to go back on, man, and just do a rebuild with some of the teams that were maybe not very good. So I'm a Kings fan, for example. The Kings were not very good that season, so it's fun to do a season with them and try to get them as good as possible through a rebuild, get them into the playoffs. And yeah, it's really fun to do that, even if you're just simming it and not playing the games. So for that reason, I think it's sometimes kind of cool to go back to older sports games and just mess around with old rosters, old teams, old players that you're maybe fond of, and do a rebuild with, or just kind of go back down memory lane and play like Madden 05 or something like that just for fun. I know a lot of people will actually pick up these old sports games basically just to use these as like a case donor for maybe like a loose game they have laying around. So even if you don't like sports games, maybe keep an eye out and you can pick the case up for cheap just to maybe make a loose game you have CIB. And last but not least here is another Xbox One console exclusive, right? So the last couple weren't, but this one is, and that is Gears of War 4. So I had picked this up quite some time ago, and then I recently actually just picked up Gears 5. So once I finish up with this through the story, I'll hop on Gears 5. I know what Gears of War E-Day or whatever it's called is going to be coming out for the Series X and Series S, which is like a prequel to the series. But I was a person who played, the first Gears of War and the second one quite a bit back in the day. Loved Horde mode, loved the multiplayer, of course loved the campaigns, especially co-op campaign. But yeah, going through the campaign solo on this. I don't have Game Pass or anything like that, so I don't play online really on Xbox. But yeah, I think this game still looks pretty good, especially for it coming out in 2016. So definitely getting older, but the game still looks good, plays well. I mean, it's just typical, Gears of War action. I'm not like in love with the game by any means. I feel like Gears really peaked in the 360 era, and it almost seemed like they were just kind of, trying to pump out as much Gears of War games as they could, because you had what 1 through 3 on 360, which did really well. I think there was like Gears Judgment, something like that. They did the 2 Gears Tactics games, I believe. Maybe there was just one of them, and then Gears 4 and Gears 5. So I think a lot of people just got kind of tired of the Gears series and thought it was maybe a bit stale. This one's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not like you're playing Gears 1 or 2 or even 3 back in the day and just having your mind blown by it. So I'll probably finish this. If I don't, maybe I'll just skip straight to 5 to see how that looks compared to this one. But this is another game that's super cheap. You can get it for like $4 or $5, pretty much all day. But yeah, that'll pretty much do it for today's video. There is 2 Xbox One games I'm still looking to get. One would be Quantum Break. That looks like a really fun exclusive Xbox game. I know it doesn't have like amazing reviews or ratings, but I think it's cool to pick up Xbox One exclusives, especially since it didn't have a ton of exclusives at the time. And then I'm probably also going to pick up either Dead Rising 3 or Crackdown 3, since I think Dead Rising 3 is still an Xbox One exclusive, and then I know Crackdown 3 is, even though it got awful reviews. But let me know what Xbox One games you guys are playing, if you are even playing any Xbox One games in 2024. Give me some recommendations. I'm always down to pick up new games. Doesn't have to be an exclusive either, so if it's something that's cross-platform or multi-platform, still down to pick it up. But yeah, Xbox One, it got a decent amount of hate and wasn't exactly the most popular console in its era, but I still think it holds up pretty well. I know it doesn't really get a ton of new releases like even the PS4 still does, but I think it's a great console that you can still game on and collect for on a budget. And then the systems are pretty cheap too. You can get them pretty much under $100 locally all the time, and on eBay too. But yeah, as usual, appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you soon with another video.